Hello, and welcome to another episode of Garage Biljon. This is the fourth episode in the Porsche 924 Safari build. In this episode, I am going to fix the sloppy gear change. It involves a few components, but if you're new to a 924 or the Porsche transaxle models, other than most cars on the road where the gearbox is sitting right behind the engine there, the gearbox on a 94 is sitting somewhere there. And the gear shifter is connected to it with a long rod and many bushes and many levers and arms to make it work. What happens over time is that all the bushes and levers and arms in this area wear out, the metal wears out, it gets fatigued. So what I'm going to be doing today is trying to make that a lot better and make this car shift the way it did when it came from the factory. Join me as I put the car on the lift and take you around the problems that I have and the fixes. So one of the challenges on the Safari 924 is that it's got a really sloppy gear shift. I'll show you what I mean. This is the car in first gear at the moment. That's horrible. So what it does is it makes it very difficult for me to know which gear I'm in and to know which gear I'm going to when I'm basically, you can move this around so much, it's crazy. So if I can make this a bit better, that'll improve the driving feel of the car. And I have a plan on doing that. I'm going to replace this crusty old gear shifter with a one that I've refurbished. I'm going to replace the shaft that is in the inside of this gear shift knob for a new aftermarket version that's a bit stronger. I'm replacing all the bushings and couplings in here, and at the back of the gearbox there's a mechanism that helps you translate the movement in here into the gearbox. Now I've felt that with my hands and I can move it very easily, so I know that's worn out as well. This is fairly straightforward to do. So I've got that gear boot that I got from a friend of mine, which is a little bit worse for wear, but I've got some color lock and I've got some sanding paper, so I'll make that as good as new. And then, yeah, let's hope we can get the shift mechanism sorted out. I need to replace the bushes that is in this little mechanism here. You can buy this mechanism new, but that's I think about 150 euro or something in that line. So what I've done is I've instead bought all the rubbers and bushes for it, which is about 10 euro. The only trick is I need to get it off the back of the gearbox. You'll see it's quite deep up there or high up there. Yeah, let's get going on that and see if I can improve the shifter feel of this car. Okay, so this is the shifter mechanism, and I need to rebuild it. It's a bit rusty, but let's go. Once I've got this all cleaned up, I will be putting some of this stuff on there, which is yeah, grease you put onto a clutch, which I think will help the metal to not corrode as much as it did before. So yeah, let me show you the bath here. It's cleaning up the components actually quite really nicely. So this one's almost all clean. The shaft. I've already sanded this down a little bit as well. This one's the worst for wear, but it's not really an issue if it's rusted because it's just a stabilizing arm. But nonetheless, I think I'll clean it up and give it a nice coat of matte black. So I have now had this in the bath for about 30 minutes, and I've run the wire wheel across it, and it's looking a lot better. That little arm is still a bit rusty to my liking, but like I said, it's not that important. This one has come up really nicely. This is after wire wheeling it and then hanging it back into the cleaning solution. And this one has also cleaned up really nicely. All the corrosion is gone. So what I'm going to be doing now is taping them all up and then giving them a lick of Hammerite, as I think that is the best solution for the area of the car that this is hanging in. This is always going to get wet and dirty, so I want to stop this corrosion in its tracks. So join me once I've taped this up. The first coat of Hammerite is on. It's looking a lot better already, I think. And that one. Well, here you go, one rebuilt shift linkage. Now, I'm not too happy about the sloppiness I still have in this plastic unit here, which is the one thing I can't replace. So we'll put this into the car and see if the shifting's improved, and if not, then I guess I'll have to spring for a new mechanism. I was almost on the verge of giving up and buying a new mechanism, but I found this. So the Porsche community decided if Porsche doesn't sell it, they'll make it. I really hope that this will be the last bit that I need to make a crisp shift lever in this car, but we'll find out. So let's build this in. And here we go. They supplied me with nice thick washers, and this block is now nice and stiff. There is zero play in this. I can't move this or wiggle it other than the direction that it wants to go into. So I'm pretty sure when I bolt this up into the car now that the shift will be really, really nice and crisp. Okay, so now I just have to get the shift linkage onto this rod here, attached to the back of the gearbox, and at the front of the gearbox it has to go into that little thing there. So these 3 points then give it a secure anchoring, and then the shifting will work. I was busy installing the linkage, and then I realized I made a mistake. This plastic block here can go in two orientations, either sitting below the shaft or spun and sitting above the shaft. Now I had it below the shaft, I just wasn't paying attention, and what that results to is that this rod here that hooks up to the shift rod in the front is misaligned. So make sure when you reassemble this thing that you have the block with the hole on this side on the top and not the bottom. So yeah, I'll be taking this apart again and doing it again. Okay, I've got it off the car again. That'll be the third time it's been off, but anyway, we learn as we go. The mistake I made is that this block here is at the bottom. It should be up here, so I need to change the orientation of this arm. Okay, I fixed it. So now you can see this is now sitting on top of this rod instead of at the bottom where as it was just now. What that allows is it allows for this rod here to slide perfectly into the rod coming from the front of the car. So let's put that in again. All right, she's back in the car, and as you can see, it is now sitting in a different orientation. The other thing I want to let you see that you should be very careful of is on the other side of the drive shaft. Now, you see that hole in the rod there, and you also saw in the previous step there's a dimple in the mechanism. Make very sure that the dimple and the hole is aligned, because you can, in essence, you can tighten this up without them being aligned. But what you'll then get is that your shifter feel will not really be improved. You'll still be struggling to find reverse in some of the gears. So make dead sure that you've got those things perfectly aligned, and if once you do, and you tighten it up, you'll have a very nice crisp shift mechanism. Alright, so the last job that you need to do on the shift linkage is either buy a new boot or put back the boot that was there. It's really important that you have a boot, because this boot has two functions. One, it keeps the shift rod from getting gunked up, but two, and probably more important, it stops the bolt you just torqued up on the shift rod to never come out again, because the rubber actually keeps it in place. We're back on the shift lever, and I think you will notice that this car is completely stripped on the inside. If you want to know why, I would recommend that you watch episode 3, where I'm chasing down electrical problems. And my new shift lever has arrived from Germany. One thing I know for sure is that it's going to be a lot better than the one that's in there. So let's get cracking. Getting the shift lever off is not all that difficult. You just need to remove this boot from the surround down here. And then there's a clip down here, which if you just click that loose, there we go. I'll show you the clip. It's just a clip that sits around the gear shift mechanism, and then it's a matter of just pulling up towards you, and there you go, she's off. So yeah, so this is what we need to rebuild. So you can see this rod wears out, and it wears out on this pivot point. And then once I have this all rebuilt, the front will be nice and stiff, and the back will be rebuilt and nice and stiff, and then this thing should shift the way it did when it came from the factory. Okay, I've removed the circlip, and I've taken the shift rod off the lever, and I want to show you guys now. You'll see that there's a split in from the factory in this foam covering inside the well, and right down there, if you separate them, let's see if I can make this work better for you guys. You can see down there, there's the nut. So there are two of these, and it's a matter of just taking them out, and you can take this whole lever out with its coupling. So once you have the shift lever out of the car, it's just a matter of popping this ball out of the plastic socket down there, and then this plastic socket, I've got a new one, you just pop it out, and then this is the only piece you'll be reusing, this metal bracket. So in my kit that I received from Germany, there's a new socket in there, there's a new circlip, there's a new shift lever. I'll be building that up now, and then putting it back into the car. Right, she's in the car. Now it's a matter of putting a thrust washer on this side. Maybe I'll put two, depending on how tight I want this to be, and a new circlip. Right, I've got the shift rod back onto the lever, and I want to show you this tip. What I'm doing, there's a thrust washer on the inside here, on that side there. Now, what I want is I want as little play between this rod and the lever as possible. So what I'm doing is I'm compressing that washer slightly, and that's giving me, you can see, just about 1 millimeter or even a half millimeter worth of play before you see where the circlip should go. I'll try and zoom in for you guys if this thing will focus. There you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add 1 or 2 shims in there. What that will allow is it'll allow the spring washer back here to keep tension on this rod, which means that this will be a nice tight shift feel. So these shims are super thin, as you can see, and I now have 2 shims on here, and I'll show you if I pull them nice and back. You can now see that the metal has disappeared, and the only thing you are seeing is the valley where the circlip goes in. So if I insert the circlip with this and I remove the vice grip that's on this lever, I'll have a very nice tight coupling on the shift lever. Alright, she's in there, she's all built up again with the new or the old rubbers back in place. The next thing I'm going to do is refit this rubber boot. Now, a lot of 924s do not have this rubber boot anymore, and I want to encourage you to find a rubber boot, and if it is there and it's broken, fix it. As you can see, this one was broken, and I used a patch for a bicycle tire. I don't know if you can see in there. Yeah, so I patched it with a bicycle patch. The reason you need this boot is because it keeps the exhaust gases out of the car, which is obviously very dangerous. So make sure this boot is in good shape, and if it's got a hole, patch it, because it's important for your health. There we go, she's all buttoned up. Rubber boots back in place. The leather is currently just hanging here because obviously, as you can see, I'm missing the center console. Once the center console is back in, I can completely reassemble the leather boot and put it over the things it needs to go to. But at the moment it's missing a shift knob insert, and as it happens to be the same place where I bought the shift lever, sell new shift lever inserts. So I took this from a 968 shift boot to a 924 shift boot by buying this new insert. Again, not very expensive, and it's much cheaper than buying a brand new shift boot from Porsche themselves. Isn't that awesome? Alright, finally we've got this job done. So the linkage in the back has just been replaced with all new bushings, all new nuts, all new everything. This has been done as you saw, and look at the difference. So this is neutral, and in first, look at the movement. Almost nothing, and it flows through all the gears really nicely. So yeah, me happy. She's perfect, like new. The rest of the crew is just back from an adventure, which I haven't been on because my freaking car's not working. But we'll get there, and that's the end of this episode. You'll join me next time when I take the car for its roadworthiness, and then hopefully I can go play with these guys. Goodbye.